To MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welker. You are listening to episode 208 of the podcast, where you're joining me live on YouTube and possibly Facebook, because from what I understand, there are errors going on with Facebook Live, some kind of glitch. I don't know, stuff that's over my head, and I can't take time to worry about it because it's not my style to worry. Today is Sunday, September 13th. Of course, we're coming off of the 19th anniversary of September 11th, and a lot of people sharing some interesting thoughts and some very sad memories, of course. It was an important day in my life because I was living in New York at the time. I was in high school, and it inspired me years later to become a firefighter, to be one of those people who was running in while everybody else was running out. So, of course, we never forget the brave deeds that took place on that day. And it's always nice to see, people sharing their experiences. Everybody always remembers where they were, what they were doing on that day. It's a day that changed American history forever, so it's very important. Anyway, if you can't tell, I'm solo today. I guess everybody's watching football. Not my thing anymore. I used to be really into football, big New York Giants fan, but it just became too time-consuming for me. Because you can't just watch the Giants, you have to watch and make sure the Cowboys lose, and then you have to make sure the Eagles lose, and then if you like another quarterback on another team, before you know it, you spent 15 hours of your Sunday watching football and drinking beer. So it got to a point where my Sundays became just recapping MMA from the day before, and that's been my life for the past 4+ years or so. So I'm sitting here having a little tequila, thinking about the events of UFC Fight Night 177, UFC on Vegas number 10, whatever you want to call it. And I have to start off by saying Billy fucking Quarantillo stealing the show. No secret, Billy's a buddy of mine. We've trained together. He trains right here in Tampa, Greasy Tampa South. Got in there last night against Kyle Nelson, a tough guy from Canada who was very confident going into this fight against Billy. Said he was going to knock him out in the first round, said Billy's just a survivor. And, he didn't really bring anything to the table. I guess he's eating those words today because, Billy put him unconscious. So happy for Billy Quarantillo. I've been around this sport a long time, a really long time. And I can honestly tell you, I have met very few people who work as hard as Billy Quarantillo. And not only does he work hard, he just brings an energy to the gym, like a positive energy that's kind of hard to describe. And Kyle Nelson was half right. Billy is a survivor. Typically, he's been, I guess you would say, a slow starter in his fights. He takes a little while to warm up. In the process, it's a cage fight. In the process, he has taken some damage, but he's shown to be durable. He's never been submitted. And now he's 15-2 with 9 finishes, and 2 of them in the UFC. So I would call it 4 in a row in the UFC if you count the Contender Series, and 3 of those finishes. So if any of you guys in the featherweight division are still thinking that Billy Quarantillo is not a killer, I don't know what to tell you anymore. You got to be on the lookout for this guy. I expect he's probably going to be fighting a ranked opponent next after a performance like that. It was really awesome to see him put things together the way he did. He looked great, put on a little bit of muscle for this fight. I scored the first 2 rounds for him, but again, I'm biased. The first round was close. I did see on social media a couple people scoring it for Kyle Nelson, and I could see them making that argument. I scored it for Billy. And the second round obviously was all Billy. And that's when Kyle broke. And was in that second round when Billy got him down on the ground and landed those last couple of elbows right at the end of the second round. It looked like Kyle didn't want to be in there anymore. And it's hard to describe if you've never been in a fight or you've never grappled or never done any kind of combat sports. It's difficult to describe the feeling of not wanting to go with somebody anymore, where you just feel like you have nothing left and they just keep coming. That's a scary feeling. And to do it on the biggest combat sports stage in the world, in the UFC, has got to be even scarier. So Billy came out in the third round, and earlier in the fight, he was trying to land a big overhand right, some big haymakers. But he came out in the third round right away, feinted a jab, and then a 1-2 right down the pipe. And that's what did it. Probably a broken orbital or at least a broken nose for Kyle Nelson, I would guess. But just a straight right down the pipe. Beautiful punch. Landed it flush right on the nose. And what he did was he called it a pump fake. He feinted the jab, which caused Kyle to parry. For those of you who don't know what parry is, it's basically a way you block a punch by swatting it away with your hand. Now, what you don't want to do is parry too far. You want to make a short, precise movement, because if you move your hand too far, obviously your hand's not covering your face anymore. And that's what happened. He feinted the jab and then he threw the 1-2, and Kyle dropped his hand, and Billy found the path to his nose and put him out. It was the number 6 play on the ESPN plays of the week. And I'm so happy for him, because I know that was a life dream of his to be on the ESPN top plays, because he always watched ESPN as a kid. So awesome. It didn't get him a fucking bonus though, which was the biggest travesty of the night. I mean, I know there were a lot of exciting fights, but for me, Billy's finish was the most exciting. And I know I'm biased. You guys don't need to call me out on that. I'll admit to it. But come on, it makes the ESPN plays of the week, and it doesn't get a performance of the night bonus. It seems a little strange to me. But in any case, still so happy for Billy Quarantillo, friend of the show, of course, and can't wait to talk to him. Last time he was on the podcast, he talked about drunk grappling Rashad Evans in a hotel hallway in the middle of the night after one of his last fights. If you guys didn't hear that story, go to YouTube. There's a highlights playlist, and you can go right there. And I've cut up the story to just be that part of the episode, and you can go check that out. But congratulations, Billy Quarantillo. So happy for him with huge win on a big platform, opened up the main card. And I got to imagine there's going to be a ranked opponent for him next. And I also have to imagine he's going to be ready for it. So awesome night. Before I get into the rest of this card, I have an announcement. MMA on the Rocks sweatshirts are now available. I'll show it here for those of you watching the video. Our friends at Team Reaper, Rip Life 1, put out hoodies. It's getting to be fall weather out there, so everybody loves a nice hoodie. I don't have much use for it myself right now because it's still in the 90s here in Florida, but I know it's starting to cool off in other parts of the country. If you want to grab yourselves MMA on the Rocks hoodie, I will throw the link in the show notes here, and I'll post it up on my social media at MMA on the Rocks. We also still have the t-shirts available. I'll click on that real quick. So the hoodies are like a light gray. They're 50% cotton, 50% fleece. I can't tell you what they feel like yet because even I haven't gotten one. So if if you order one, you might get it before me. And you can let me know how it is. So that's that. And of course, our t-shirts are still available. Over the top, under the influence, the way we like to keep it on this show. And that's that, folks. So that's it. That's all we have for announcements here. I'm sipping on some Maestro Dobel tequila. My buddy Ryan and his girlfriend Rachel brought over last night very graciously. This stuff is so smooth. I'm drinking it neat here. No ice, no lime, nothing. Just straight tequila. It even has like a little bit of a vanilla flavor to it. Right? But I kind of taste vanilla and everything. I don't know. I have a weird palate that way, I guess. In any case, let's talk some more fights, folks. UFC Fight Night 177. It was headlined by Michelle Waterson and Angela Hill. Okay. So, from what I understand, there was some heat going into this fight because apparently Michelle Waterson made it known that she supports Donald Trump and Angela Hill supports Joe Biden. This is the very bare bones of this that I've gotten from this. And I saw a lot of heat on social media based on this. You know, I saw more so heat towards the karate hottie where people were saying they can't wait to see her get beat up because she supports Donald Trump. Now, myself personally, I can't imagine wanting to see another human being get hurt because of who they're voting for. That's just not a thought that would ever enter my mind. You know, we live in a democracy and we're stuck with this two-party system. The choices we have are the choices we have, and you have to pick one or the other. And some people are going to pick one guy and other people are going to pick the other guy. And everybody has their reasons for doing so. And I don't think you should wish violence on somebody for who they want to vote for. But that's just me. And hey, if it helps add a little bit of excitement to the event for you, to root against somebody for whatever reason, then fine. If it's all just in good fun. I mean, Michelle and Angela were able to shake hands after the fight, so hopefully there's no hard feelings there. This was a close fight. It looked like Angela Hill was going to run away with it. She was pressuring Michelle Waterson. She was in her face. She busted her up, gave her a hematoma over her left temple at the end of the first round. She really did a lot of damage. Then Michelle Waterson came back. She started using her grappling in the third and fourth rounds, and she stole those rounds. I think pretty much anybody I've talked to had it 2-2 going into the fifth round. And the fifth round was very close. It was very back and forth. Angela Hill landed a little bit more, but Michelle Waterson threw more flurries, and she was selling it a little bit more. She was yelling as she was hitting her, like making noise, getting the attention of the judges. And, that little bit was all the difference, in my opinion. When they read that it was a split decision for Michelle Waterson, I was not surprised. I don't think it was a robbery of any kind. I understand a lot of people think that Angela Hill won. And look, it was a coin toss. Yeah, Angela Hill outstruck her a little bit in that fifth round, but it's easy to make that distinction when you have the analytics after the fight and you see the numbers. She landed 5 more significant strikes or 10 more significant strikes, whatever it was. But while you're watching it live, I dare anybody to be able to tell me when that round ended who landed more strikes. It's hard because Michelle Waterson was throwing these flurries and a lot of the strikes maybe weren't landing, but they looked like they were landing, and that's all you need sometimes. So congratulations to Michelle Waterson. Hopefully they put their political differences aside. Maybe we're going to see like the Ultimate Fighter, Team Democrat versus Team Republican. And we have, the coaches are, you have a conservative coach and a liberal coach. And I guess you end up on a team based on your political persuasion. I don't know. Maybe they could have a little bit of fun with this. I think it's too late since, we have an election in like a month and a half. And, it takes a lot of time to put one of these shows together. But just an idea. Hey, maybe in 2024 we do it like this. And, you have like Colby Covington coach one team and somebody who's a Democrat coach the other team, and it'd be fun. Yeah, so I don't give a shit about any of that stuff people were arguing about beforehand. Or like, oh, I can't believe she's voting for her. I hope she gets beat up. All right. Whatever makes it fun for you. Whatever makes it fun for you. Co-main event, Ottman Azaitar getting the first round TKO over Khama worthy. I guess you could call it an early stoppage. I wasn't mad about it. I know Khama worthy wasn't happy with it. But Azaitar dropped him, and the way he fell, he did what I call like a double fall, where he kind of went down and then it looked like he went out as he started a face plant, and he did land on his hands. But if you're Herb Dean, you're looking at that thinking like, man, he might already be out. And I counted 6 unanswered blows to the side of the head from Azaitar, and then Herb Dean stepped in there pretty quick. And, those 6 blows were thrown in about half a second. He was just railing them in there. And yeah, Khama worthy didn't do anything to defend those strikes, but there also wasn't enough time. It was quick. He did stand up right away. He did look a little bit out of it. If you tell me it was an early stoppage, I'll tell you, okay. If you tell me it was a good stoppage, I'll tell you, okay. That's kind of where I am with that. I know I'm giving very ambiguous analysis to a lot of this stuff. But that's just how I saw it. Azaitar undefeated fighting out of Morocco. So that's interesting to have a Moroccan fighter on a UFC main card. I don't know if that's something that's happened before. Feel free to correct me on that. So that was fun. Roxanne Modafferi getting the win over Andrea Lee. This was a fun fight. This one was very back and forth. Unanimous decision for Roxanne Modafferi, so a little less controversy than the main event, but still a lot of people out there who thought Andrea Lee, should have gotten the nod here. I thought Roxanne definitely did enough to win this fight, so I won't be ambiguous about this one. I thought Roxanne won this fight. Her grappling, looked really good, especially that one single leg, I think was in the second round. It was a little push-pull, run the pipe. Beautiful takedown. Head on the inside, pushed her one way, and when she started pushing back, she ran the pipe, which means she just pulled her leg down to the strong side. Very nice takedown. Her grappling looks great. Her striking is very unorthodox, I would say. A little bit wacky. She's a little bit all over the place, but when you're all over the place, you're hard to hit. Andrea Lee has much cleaner, crisper striking. Her hands were a little quicker. She was able to touch Roxanne up, especially in that first round. But Roxanne looked better all around. Her all-around game was just more complete. I thought she was a more complete fighter. Rematch from a long while ago. I can look up exactly when that was, but it was a very competitive fight. It was a very fun fight. And Roxanne has been very hot and cold, coming off the loss to Lauren Murphy, that huge win over Macy Barber, that loss to Jennifer Maia, but Jennifer Maia was like 50 pounds overweight in that fight. And then she had that win over Antonina Shevchenko, where she played the spoiler. The loss to Sajara Eubanks, who also missed weight. So if you're looking at her, now I'm looking at her record, if you take away the losses to the fighters that didn't make weight, which I'm willing to do, she's been looking pretty good, actually. I take away my statement about her being hot and cold. All right, so she last fought Andrea Lee in December of 2014. That was Invicta FC 10, and she won a split decision that time. So, 2-0 against Andrea Lee. What can you say? 37 years old, still in there, killing it. She's got She's got over 40 fights under her belt, a true veteran, Roxanne Modafferi. So I was happy to see her get the W. Seems like a really nice, genuinely nice person, which you always like to see them do well. All right, let's get on to the performance of the night. And I'm not talking about bonuses here. I'm talking about Ed Herman, Mike Rodriguez. So somewhere in the second round, Ed Herman takes a knee to the solar plexus, and referee Cristione thought that it was a low blow, and Ed Herman just kind of went with it. It was, the knee was like, he kneed him like in the right nipple, which is, I don't know if you guys are anatomy experts out there. It's pretty far from the testicles, unless he's got some kind of weird like chestnut syndrome where his testicles live in his chest cavity. This was not a low blow. So Ed Herman took this time to recover, and he was like kind of grabbing his cup and really selling it. They were talking about him getting an Academy Award. So that's why I call it the performance of the night. He used that time to recover. And then in the third round, he was trying to take Mike Rodriguez down. He held on to a single leg too long, which if you guys have listened to the show for any period of time, I always say never hold on to a single leg in MMA because both of your hands are tied up and you can't defend yourself. He was taking some vicious elbows to the side of the head, almost got knocked out. Referee Chris Tione was about to step in there. He was like, Ed, you got to show me something. You got to show me something. And finally, Ed let go of that single leg. And I tell guys all the time in the gym who are thinking about doing MMA, like if you get a hold of a single leg, even if you're just doing jiu-jitsu, like transition to something or let it go. And it's got to be about 3 to 5 seconds. You can't be hanging on to a single leg. If you have a double leg, it's a little bit different. You can fight that a little bit longer just because they have to use at least one hand to fight that off properly. They have to get a whizzer. They have to fight for an underhook. So at least one hand is going to be occupied. They can't be blasting you in the side of the head like they can when you're holding on to a single leg. So this was strike 2 for Ed Herman. This is the second time he got saved because the fight could have been stopped there. And then it went to the ground, and Mike Rodriguez was just beating the piss out of him. And the folks I was watching the fight with can tell you, I was sitting there going, I don't need to see any more of this fight. It should be stopped here. Ed Herman was just getting abused on the ground. Then out of nowhere, he grabs a Kimura from half guard, uses it to sweep Rodriguez, and then continues to keep bending his arm behind his back. Rodriguez actually tapped twice, in my opinion. He reached his hand under Ed Herman's legs at one point and reached up to tap. And then he got rolled over. He reached again to tap. The referee didn't see it. So I guess we're even now. Like Ed Herman got saved twice, and then the tap wasn't seen twice. And then Ed Herman stepped over Rodriguez's head. And once you do that, you're able to put so much leverage, and he just torqued the shit out of Mike Rodriguez's shoulder. It was painful to watch. I was actually yelling at the TV, tap, tap, tap. And he did. Ed Herman let go. And when Ed was interviewed after the fight by Michael Bisping, he was like, I don't know what happened in the second round there. I know I went down. I don't know if it was to the body or if it was a low blow or what. I have to look at it, see how bad it was. So, that's his story, and he's sticking to it. Everybody watching at home saw the replay. They saw him get kneed in the solar plexus and knock the wind out of him. That's a painful place to get kneed. I don't know if anybody's ever been kneed there before, but if you have, it's so painful. It's like getting stabbed in the chest, like stabbed in the heart, and it can take your breath away. But he was given that time to recover by the referee. He went with it. I guess he could have been honest and been like, no, I got dropped. But I don't know of any fighters who are going to do that. Possibly Joe Lozon is the only one I can think of who's in the corner of Mike Rodriguez. The nice thing about this is Brett Okamoto, who I trust very much, reported that Mike Rodriguez was paid his win bonus. He's still going to get that loss on his record, that submission loss. But at least he was compensated financially because he should have won the fight. It should have been stopped when he kneed Herman in the chest. And, referee made a mistake. He was at a bad angle, and it was deceiving how high that knee came up. So I don't know. Maybe it was the way Ed fell, because he fell and his eyes stayed on Mike Rodriguez. Usually, and that's just a veteran move. Usually when you get the wind knocked out of you, you kind of slump over. But Ed kept eye contact with his opponent, and maybe that's what sold it. I don't know. Bobby Green looked fantastic against Allan Patrick. This fight, Allan Patrick just dove for a takedown at the opening bell, wound up pulling Bobby Green on top of him, and then it was just downhill from there. Bobby Green just whooped that ass for 15 minutes. And Bobby Green looks great, man. He's been super disciplined lately. So it's nice to see a focused Bobby Green. He's got goals. He wants to buy a house for his family. That's 3 big wins in a row. Coming off that big win over Lando Venata, and before that, the win over Clay Guida. Early in his career, man, the guy was reckless, and he got away with it a lot. He was knocking people out, and back in his King of the Cage days, just a fierce dude. And now he is super composed. Now that he's gotten over there with Pinnacle MMA, he's looked phenomenal. And 34 years old, he's really having a resurgence in his career, and it's awesome to see for him. Very exciting fighter. Of course, we already talked about Billy Q. Big win over Kyle Nelson. Sajara Eubanks, unanimous decision over Julia Avila. This was a very back-and-forth fight, very exciting. A lot of people were talking about this one being the fight of the night. Of course, it went to the main event, as it often does. The biggest upset of the night, Kevin Kroom, 31-second submission over Roosevelt Roberts. Now, this was supposed to be one of my other buddies, Matt the Steamroller Frevola, fighting Roosevelt Roberts. But unfortunately, in his last sparring session, for those of you who didn't hear the whole story, threw a kick. The kick was checked, and he broke his foot. Not only did he break his foot, but he did some ligament damage to his foot. So he immediately flew out to the UFC PI. I was actually talking to him right before it happened or right after it happened. The timeline's a little hazy right now. Flew immediately to the UFC PI, had the UFC doctors take a look at it. He asked them to give him a cortisone shot so he could fight, and they told him no. They said they wouldn't do that because it would only do more damage, since it wasn't just a fracture, it was a torn ligament, as the MRI showed. So they wouldn't let him fight. So unfortunately, this is 2 fights in a row that Matt Frevola hasn't been able to fight. The last one was because his cornerman, coincidentally, Billy Quarantillo, tested positive for coronavirus. And now the broken foot. So just a string of bad luck. I got to think that we won't see the Steamroller back in the cage until 2021, but who knows? That guy's fucking superhuman. He might heal like the Wolverine and get back in there quick. So unfortunate. But a big deal for Kevin Kroom, who stepped up on 2 or 3 days' notice. And I saw a tweet from this guy that really struck a chord with me, where he said, last week I had $64 in my bank account, and I was trying to figure out a way to make it 65. And he got a 31-second submission in his UFC debut, and a fight of the night, $50,000 bonus. So you got to feel for that, man, because I see these guys in the gym that just pour everything into this sport. Every part of themselves they're putting into this, and they sacrifice so much. And I know guys who've been in that situation where they only got a couple of bucks in the bank, and to be able to get an opportunity like this and capitalize on it, awesome for Kevin Kroom. He dropped Roberts with a left hook that was really nice, dove on top of him, snatched up that modified guillotine. It's a real funny looking guillotine. You usually have to have like longer arms to pull this off, because it's like a rear naked choke grip. where you're reaching under the chin, you're grabbing your own bicep, and you're able to put that pressure down. And, he executed it perfectly, threw his hips into it, and he was really cranking Roberts' neck around and got the tap 31 seconds of the first round. Very impressive. Alexander Romanov against Roque Martinez. Arm triangle choke at the end of the second round. This fight was just a one-sided beating. It should have been stopped in the first round. I don't know what was going on with the referee in this fight, but Romanov had Martinez mounted, and he was just beating the fuck out of him. And Martinez wasn't doing anything to move. All he was doing was shelling up. He wasn't moving his hips at all to try and escape the mount. He wasn't trying to recover his guard. He was just covering his face and getting punched in the face. This is not intelligent defense. I think this one should have been stopped a little bit sooner. It was more of the same. Romanov was getting tired from punching Martinez. It was like Homer Simpson, where Homer Simpson used to just let people punch him until they got tired, and then he would just do the one punch and knock him over. For any of you Simpson fans out there, I might be dating myself with that reference. Is The Simpsons even a thing anymore? I know it's on Disney Plus, so maybe some of you young folks out there with Disney Plus have been catching up on The Simpsons. If you haven't, go back and watch the episode where Homer Simpson is a boxer. It's a classic. I need a little tequila for my throat here. All right. So, that was that. And then Jalen Turner looked awesome against Brock Weaver. Completely outclassed him everywhere. Looked like he knocked him out in the second round, dropped him real hard, and kind of walked off. But Herb Dean was like, hey, where the fuck are you going? Keep fighting here. So he just jumped on his back and choked him out. And apparently Brock Weaver is into fighting dogs. So, fuck that guy. So that's that. Big win for Jalen Turner, who took this fight on short notice. He was supposed to fight last week, and his fight fell apart. So fought tonight. I fought last night instead. Yeah. So good night for him, the tarantula, who even brought one of his tarantulas to the weigh-in. That's an interesting way to intimidate an opponent, I suppose. Bryan Barberena, hard-fought victory over Anthony Ivy. That was a really close fight. Very back and forth. Bryan Barberena, man, he's just in a fucking war every time he gets in there. The guy doesn't know how to have an easy fight. They never seem to come his way. But Ivy looked good too. Sabina Mazo submitting Justine Kish. That was a big deal. Late in the fight, 4 minutes into the third round. And that was a very back and forth fight too. So big win for Mazo there. All right. So that was it, man. That was the fight night. Solid card up and down. We had some exciting finishes. We had some exciting decisions. A little bit of controversy. Chestnut syndrome. What else do you want out of a fight card? So next week, actually, before we get into that, I guess I could talk about Bellator a little bit. Phil Davis got a win over Lyoto Machida on Friday night. I'll be honest with you guys, I fell asleep during that fight. It was late on a Friday. And I can't remember anything else from that card, and I don't have it in front of me. So that's that. And then Bellator 246 on Saturday night. Juan Archuleta, teammate of TJ Dillashaw, won the Bantamweight Championship against Patrick Mix, who was undefeated. Archuleta looked good, man. His hands are so fast. Co-main event, Neiman Gracie submitted John Fitch with a heel hook right at the end of the second round. Just 13 seconds to go in the second round. And, he grabbed a leg, and it was a nasty heel hook. I saw it. I saw the clip of the ending. I didn't watch the whole fight, to be honest. I'm going to look at this card and see if there's anything I want to go back and watch. But, yeah, from what I hear, John Fitch wants to retire after this fight, and I mean, what else do you have to prove if you're that guy? I don't think he's going to be fighting for a title anytime soon. He's got a few losses in recent memory, but I always liked John Fitch. A lot of people thought he was boring in the UFC. That I think that's why they cut him. And then there was also some controversy about he didn't want to give the rights to his persona for the video game or something. They're like, all right, well, we'll just cut you. And he was like, all right, well, I'll just go to Bellator. And he did. And, you know, he had a good run over there too. Liz Carmouche, her Bellator debut, I believe, rear naked choke victory over Deanna Bennett in the third round. And nothing else catching my eye here. Short card. It was only 7 fights on this card. So I guess they had similar problems as the UFC did last week, where they had some fights drop off. I don't know. If there's anything on this card that's worth checking out, let me know. Looks like almost every fight went to distance or ended in the third round. The only one that was a second round finish was the Neiman Gracie John Fitch. Cool. Okay. Fun stuff. Fun stuff from Bellator. Let's look at UFC. Next week, UFC Fight Night 178. Colby Covington, Tyron Woodley. This is a weird one, man, because Tyron Woodley's been doing all of the publicity for this fight. Colby Covington has been doing none of it. So that's unusual, right? Because Colby's usually the one that's always doing all the talking, but he's been quiet. These guys used to be teammates. I'll throw the card up here so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. I don't know how well you can see this, but yeah, so Tyron Woodley coming off those 2 losses. So he lost his title to Kamaru Usman, the current champ, and then he lost to Gilbert Burns. Basically got dominated in both of those fights, which was shocking to see, because nobody treats Tyron Woodley like that, except for the last 2 guys he fought, I suppose. So there's that. Make this a little bigger so you guys can follow along here. But Tyron says that I guess he was going through some stuff in the camps for those fights, and now he's back to his old self. He's back to his old training methods. Him and Colby had trained together at some point. So Tyron Woodley was doing his camp with Jorge Masvidal, I believe, to kind of game plan for it. Covington, of course, coming off of that loss to Kamaru Usman. So they have that in common. That was a very fun fight. That was very underrated as one of the best fights of 2019, I think. Really fun one. I think this is going to be a great fight, man. You know, of course, Tyron Woodley has that one-punch knockout power. He can take anybody out of there with one shot. But Colby Covington's never been knocked out. And a lot of people fall into this fallacy that because he acts like a goofball, that the guy can't fight. Colby Covington can fight, and Tyron Woodley knows he can fight. He's taking this very seriously. I think after the 2 losses, you're going to see a Tyron Woodley who feels like he has something to prove against a guy that he genuinely doesn't like in Colby Covington, you know, because Colby's such a notorious shit talker and everything like that. Meanwhile, Colby's been quiet. I don't know who he's training with because he left American Top Team because of the drama with Jorge Masvidal. So I don't know who he's training with, who he's working with, who's coaching him. I don't know anything. He's been real quiet, which is so unusual for Colby. So, you know, maybe he's just being humble because he's coming off of that loss for the championship. We'll see. I don't know what's going to happen with the winner of this. I don't know. I guess it'll depend on Usman's next fight. You know, if I believe they're going to put him in there with Gilbert Burns. So I guess if Colby wins, he'll probably, you know, get another shot at the title. If Tyron wins, he'll probably have to take another fight before they give him a title shot again. Because, you know, the UFC is going to stiff arm him from getting back to that title for as long as possible because, according to them, he was a little bit difficult to work with while he was the champ. Co-main event, Cowboy Cerrone and Nico Price. How do you not love this fight? This is gonna be madness for as long as it lasts. If it goes past the first round, I'll favor Cowboy and his experience, and being able to stay out of trouble. If he's able to avoid early knockouts from Nico Price, who's very unorthodox, very unusual guy, and just a wild man in there. If this fight doesn't last more than a round, then I would favor Nico Price. So for you gamblers out there, I don't know what kind of like over under if it goes more than a round, whatever kind of prop bets there are out there. But if you can bet, who wins if it goes past the first round, I would bet Cowboy. And if you can bet who wins if it doesn't go past the first round, I would bet Nico Price. So there's that. Khamzat Chimaev getting in there against Gerald Murshart. So it's going to be his first fight in the United States. They're throwing him in the deep end, man. This guy was talking some wild stuff after his last 2 wins against, not really well-known opponents. And one of them was on like 2 days notice or a week's notice or something. And he did look good. I'll give him that, as submission in his UFC debut against John Phillips, and then TKO over Reese McKee. Just kind of blew through those guys. And I know a lot of people are high on this guy. He's undefeated, 8-0. He's coming out of that team in Sweden with Alexander Gustafsson and Ilir Latifi and those guys. But if you look at his schedule, he's never fought anybody as experienced as Gerald Murshart. And granted, I know he feels confident for what he could do in the gym, but Gerald Mearshart's a guy with over 40 fights. This guy's been fighting forever. He's got 10 fights in the UFC. He's tied for the most submission wins in UFC middleweight history. Comes out of a great camp over there with Duke Rufus in Wisconsin. And yeah, he's coming off a tough loss to Ian Heinisch. Got knocked out in a minute and 14 seconds. But this is a durable guy. This is not a guy that you're going to break in the first round and just bulldoze. This is going to be a big test for Chimaev. And of course, the controversy here is they already booked Chimaev's next fight in October against Damian Maia. So Gerald Mearsart, understandably so, took that personally and said that Chimaev's not going to be able to, he's not going to leave the cage in any condition and be fighting in a month. And when a guy with 40-something fights tells you that, you kind of got to take him at his word. I'm favoring Mearsart in this fight. I know everybody's high on Chimaev, but I just don't see him being able to do to a veteran what he did to the younger guys that were showing up on last minute in Fight Island. It's also going to be his first fight in the United States, so you have to, consider, will that kind of travel affect him to come to a fight? I don't know. Mark Fellows wants to know if I can start the show again because he just came back. No, I cannot, Mark. But I can pour some more tequila if that's a good compromise for you. It's because maybe if I have enough tequila, I'll forget what I already talked about and talk about it again. So it's a roll of the dice here. Johnny Walker and Ryan Spann. Of course, Johnny Walker had the wind knocked out of his sails, first by himself when he did the worm after his victory over Misha Serkinov and dislocated his shoulder. Then he got knocked out by Corey Anderson and then lost the decision to Nikita Krylov. I gotta give you Ryan Spann on this one, man. I just think, the flashy flying knee stuff, like there's enough tape on Johnny Walker that guys will be prepared for him now. I think when he first got in the UFC, it was a little unusual. He was very explosive. People didn't really know about him. And, he was able to do it. I see Ryan Spann being able to get it done on the feet here. So there's that. I mean, if you lose your money on that, I'm sorry, but that's what I think. That's why I don't like to give picks. People are always, DMing me like, Bill, what do you think about this fight? Who's gonna win? And I know it's because they're degenerate gamblers and they think I'm some kind of expert. But this is not the kind of sport where it's like you can just put some X's and O's into a formula and figure out, how to make money. It doesn't work like that. There's all kinds of surprises and hidden rabbits in this game. Mackenzie Dern and Randa Marcos. So Mackenzie Dern coming off her first loss. So she's going to look to get that one back. Randa Marcos is going to be a tough test for her. She's a tough veteran. Actually, Mackenzie Dern had a win after that loss to Amanda Hebos. She submitted Hannah Cyphers with that knee bar back in May. Everything's kind of blending together because of the whole pandemic thing. Randa Marcos is going to be a tough test for Mackenzie Dern. If Dern's not able to get her to the ground, it's going to be a little tough for her because her striking's still very green, let's say. Very green. And Randa Marcos is a very accomplished grappler as well. She's got 4 submission victories. I don't know if any of them are in the UFC. Feel free to correct me on that. But she has been submitted in the past too. And this is a fun fight. Okay, what else we got here? Miguel Baeza against Unknown Fighter. Can't wait for this one. Thanks, Sure Dog. The undefeated Miguel Baeza is going to be fighting somebody. We don't know. It could be anybody. So it could be Khamzat Chimaev. The way that guy talks, he'll say like he needs a warm-up fight before he gets in there with Murshart. Because last time he was interviewed, he's like, yeah, I'll fight Khabib and Adesanya and Usman all in the same night. Just line them up. So there's that. Kevin Holland, I'm excited to see back against Darren Stewart. That's a really fun fight. That's going to be my sleeper pick. Make sure you guys tune in for that one. And there's a lot of fight. There's 14 fights on this card. So maybe they're overbooking because they're worried about fighters dropping off or whatever. Mirsad Bektik against Luis Eduardo Garagori. Okay. Jordan Espinosa against David Vorak. Jessica Rose Clark against Sarah Alpar. Randy Costa against Journey Newsome. Andre Ewell against Erwin Rivera. And then we got Derek Minner against TJ Laramie. So let me know in the comments and on social media what you guys are looking forward to the most. I got to say, this main event is really interesting, especially because Colby's been so quiet. And I guess they haven't been doing like the press conferences or anything, but usually he gets his own camera crew and whatever else and, does his own media. Oh, and before I forget, our friend of the show, of course, Serena De Jesus, who was our guest co-host last week. She's going to be fighting Saturday night, Titan FC. I think I'm able to announce that. If not, oops. Because last week we weren't allowed to say the promotion yet. But yeah, she's going to be fighting for them. It's going to be on UFC Fight Pass. So please check that out. Please support her. Please follow her at Serena Southpaw on social media. Awesome person. A good friend of the show. She's been on here probably half a dozen times. Always a fan favorite. Everybody loves when Serena comes on, and especially when she swears and gets pissed off about things and everything like that. So please do support Miss De Jesus in her fight next week. Of course, she's a teammate of Roxanne Modafferi, coming off that big win over Andrea Lee last night. This episode is brought to you by Maestro Dobel. They're not a sponsor, but some of my opinions may have been influenced by them over the course of the last 50 minutes or so. And that's it. Again, MMA on the Rocks sweatshirts, hoodies now available from Team Reaper, Rip Life 1. The thing I love about Team Reaper is they're a local company, which is why I partnered up with them to start doing the clothing during the pandemic, because I wanted to support a local business. I'm big on that, as you guys know. local breweries, local businesses, local distilleries, all that stuff. Whatever's relevant to the show, of course. What I love about them is they support local fighters from amateur to professional. They take care of their guys. They give them opportunities to make money by selling their fight T-shirts and things like that. And they support the local community fighters, which is an awesome thing because I know a lot of them. And, like we were saying about Kroom before, $64 in the bank account trying to make it 65. There's a lot of fighters out there in that situation. They're trying to make their dreams come true. And it's not an easy thing to do financially. It takes a lot of sacrifice. So big props to Rip Life One, Team Reaper, for taking care of the fighters the way they do in the local community. They just signed a bunch of new fighters as well, too. So make sure you guys follow Team Reaper on social media and see what other fun stuff they're doing. They make a lot of cool fight gear, fight clothing, accessories, stuff like that. So give them a follow. Even if you're not gonna buy an MMA on the Rocks shirt or sweatshirt, that's cool. Go support some fighters. They have some cool designs and things like that. I understand not everybody wants to wear an over the top under the influence shirt. It's not for everybody. I understand this is a niche thing that we do here. And we're still missing Jeff the Animal Wilson, of course. He's getting settled in his new job. He's sorting some things out in his life. Nothing negative going on. He just can't take the time to do the podcast every week, which of course we understand and we support him in everything he does. But, make sure you touch base with the animal at @animal_Wilson on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure he's doing well. Send him some love. And you guys know how to get a hold of me. It's at MMA on the Rocks, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm a pretty accessible guy. I try to respond to everybody, try to interact with everybody, especially if you listen to the show. But even if you don't, I like talking booze and MMA. I know there's a lot of people out there on social media I interact with who probably never even listen to the show. And that's cool too. We're all just having a good time. Anyway, I hope you guys don't want to see somebody who supports a politician that you don't like. I hope you don't want to see them get beat up. I hope there's none of you out there. And if there is, and that's how you make things fun for yourself, and that's cool too. All right. That's it. That's all I got for this week. I've been talking for an hour straight. I gotta wet my throat with some more tequila here because it's getting a little dry. So I guess a short one this week. I try to keep it under an hour anyway. Now I'm just rambling. I'll let you guys go. All right. Awesome fights this weekend. Awesome fights next weekend. Awesome fights every weekend. There's football on. I'm not watching it, but you guys might be watching it. So have fun with that. Until next time. Cheers, everybody. Goodbye.